You ever see something so wrong it stops the world? Not like a car crash, not loud and sudden. I mean quiet. Something so out of place it makes the air in your lungs feel heavy and wrong. That's what happened to Marcus Chin on a Thursday. He was in the cereal aisle at the grocery store, a place so normal it hurts. The lights hummed. The wheels of a distant cart squeaked a lonely rhythm. He was just a man, lost in thought, trying to remember what kind of granola his wife used to like before she was suddenly gone forever. His life was a quiet hum of absence. An empty house. Frozen dinners for one. The heavy weight of a wedding ring he couldn't bring himself to take off. He was turning his cart toward the checkout, ready to go back to his silent home. And that's when he saw them. They were standing by the automatic doors. Two little girls. One was maybe 7, the other just a toddler. And everything about them was wrong. The world didn't stop. But for Marcus, it did. The shoppers flowed around them like a river around two small stones. Nobody seemed to notice. Or maybe nobody wanted to. The older girl had on a thin cotton dress, the kind you wear on a summer day. But it was October, and a cold wind was rattling the doors. She had no shoes. Her feet were bare and black with grime on the clean, white linoleum. She was holding the hand of a toddler in a sagging diaper, a little thing who just stood there, swaying on her feet. But it was their eyes that hit Marcus, like a punch to the gut. The older one, her eyes darted everywhere. Sharp, intelligent, and terrified. She was scanning every face, looking for something. Or looking out for something. The toddler's eyes were different. They were huge, dark, and completely empty. A doll's eyes. A child that small should be making noise, pointing at the candy, squirming. This one was silent, frozen. She clutched a dirty stuffed rabbit that was missing an ear. Then the older girl's eyes locked onto Marcus. He saw her size him up in a single, desperate heartbeat. She saw his plain clothes, the sadness in his posture, the gold band on his finger. She saw something she was looking for. She whispered to the little one and started walking toward him. Every instinct in Marcus screamed at him to turn away, to push his cart down another aisle. You don't get involved. That's the first rule of survival in a world that doesn't care. Mind your own business. But he didn't look away. He couldn't. She stopped a few feet from his cart. Up close, it was worse. He could see old bruises on her arms, yellow and green at the edges, a scabbed-over cut on her lip. There were hollows under her eyes that no 7-year-old should have. Her voice, when it came, was a dry rasp, like she'd used it all up screaming or crying. "Sir," she said, "can we have some milk?" Marcus opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The simple question short-circuited his brain. Where were their parents? Why was no one helping? He glanced around and saw other people starting to notice. A woman pulled out her phone. Security would be here soon. Then the police. The little girl saw his hesitation. Her face, which had been held together with a kind of terrible adult composure, began to crumble. Tears welled in her eyes. She took one step closer, and her voice dropped to a whisper, a secret meant only for him. "Please, sir," she breathed. "Mama said to find someone kind when she stopped breathing." The floor of the grocery store seemed to fall away. "She stopped breathing 3 days ago. We don't know what to do." 3 days. This child, this tiny, brave girl, had been keeping her baby sister alive for 3 days after watching their mother die. The weight of it was staggering. Marcus felt the world tilt on its axis. He crouched down, trying to make himself smaller, less of a threat. "What's your name?" he asked, his own voice sounding strange in his ears. "Lisa." She swallowed hard. "This is Lily. She doesn't talk anymore. Not since Mama got sick." "Where have you been staying, Lisa?" Her eyes darted around, a wild animal checking for traps. "The old apartment, but we can't go back. The men came yesterday. They were looking for Mama's money. They said they'd be back." Her little hand squeezed her sister's. "We came here 'cause Mama always said this was a good neighborhood. She said good people live in good neighborhoods. Find someone kind. A dying mother's last words were a survival plan. A desperate Hail Mary thrown out into a cold world. And this child had followed those instructions to the letter. She had walked who knows how far, barefoot, to find a kind person. And she had found Marcus. A man hollowed out by grief, just going through the motions. "I'm going to help you," he heard himself say. The words felt like they belonged to someone else, someone better, but you have to trust me. Her old eyes searched his. "Are you going to call the police?" He should have said yes. It was the right thing to do, the legal thing to do. But he saw a flash of pure animal terror in her eyes that stopped him cold. He remembered being a kid himself, lost in the foster system. He remembered caseworkers with dead eyes who saw him as a file, not a person. Sarah had been the one who saw him, who believed him. "Not yet," he said quietly. "First, let's get you something to eat, and milk. Definitely milk." The relief that washed over Lisa was so total she almost fell. Marcus reached out and steadied her. For the first time, the little one, Lily, looked right at him. Her silent, empty eyes seemed to see straight through him, right into the broken parts he kept hidden from the world. He grabbed his cart and moved like a man on a mission. Milk, bread, peanut butter, bananas, juice boxes. His hands worked on autopilot while his brain screamed. "What are you doing? This is a felony. You call the authorities. You let the professionals handle it." But his hands kept putting food in the cart. At the checkout, the cashier, a teenager with pink hair, stared. Her eyes went from the girls' dirty faces to Marcus's clean, ordinary ones. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Then she just scanned the items in a tense silence. Marcus paid with cash, his heart hammering against his ribs. He half expected a hand to fall on his shoulder. He guided the girls out the automatic doors, walking fast, but not running. "Don't look suspicious. Act normal." They made it to his car. His hands were shaking so badly it took him 3 tries to get the key in the lock. Lisa climbed into the back, pulling Lily onto her lap. She didn't say a word. She just held her sister and watched him with a terrible, fragile hope. He sat in the driver's seat, the leather cool against his back. This was it. The final moment of choice. The police station was 4 blocks north. He could turn right, drive there, and hand these children over to the system. It would be the right thing. The sensible thing. "Please don't take us to the police," a tiny voice whispered from the back seat. "They'll split us up. I promised Mama I'd keep Lily safe. I promised." He looked in the rearview mirror. Lisa's face was streaked with silent tears, her brave mask completely gone. Lily was a dead weight in her sister's arms, still so quiet, so terribly still. He thought of Sarah. She always said that sometimes the rules were wrong. Sometimes doing the right thing meant you had to break them. He thought of his empty house, his empty life. Marcus started the engine, and he turned south, away from the police station. "Just for tonight," he said, not sure if he was talking to them or himself. "We'll figure it out tomorrow." As he pulled onto the main road, he noticed it in his rearview mirror, a dark sedan, 3 cars back. It seemed to hang there, matching his speed. It followed him for 3 blocks, then 4. Probably nothing. Just his frayed nerves. He told himself it was just paranoia. But then the sedan sped up, pulled into the lane beside him. The passenger window was down. A man in a suit was staring right at him. He didn't smile. He didn't wave. He just looked. A cold, assessing look. Then the sedan shot forward and disappeared into traffic. It wasn't paranoia. They were being watched. Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel. He'd just brought 2 children with secrets and a dead mother into his life. And now he knew, with chilling certainty, that he'd also brought home whatever, or whoever, they were running from. He pulled into his driveway and turned off the engine. The quiet house looked different now. It didn't just feel empty. It felt dangerous. He looked back at the girls. Lisa met his gaze. Lily's tiny hand reached out over the seat and, for the first time, she touched his arm. A small, trusting gesture that felt heavier than the whole world. "Let's go inside," Marcus said, his voice a low rasp. You're safe now. He prayed to a God he wasn't sure he believed in anymore that it was true. A scream ripped through the house at 4 in the morning, a high, thin sound of pure terror. Marcus was on his feet before he was fully awake, his heart trying to hammer its way out of his chest. He'd fallen asleep on the couch, not wanting to be too far from the guest room. Another scream. It was Lily. He stumbled to the guest room door and froze. Lisa was already there. She had her little sister wrapped in her arms, rocking back and forth in the tangled blankets. She was singing, a soft, sad lullaby in Spanish. The words were gentle, but her voice was the voice of someone who had done this 100 times before. Lily's cries slowly softened into shuddering sobs. Her tiny fists unclenched from Lisa's t-shirt. Marcus backed away, his throat tight. He went to the kitchen and made coffee, his hands shaking. The house felt different. It was no longer just empty. It was fragile, filled with a pain that was not his own. He decided to make pancakes. His were always lopsided and a little burnt, nothing like the perfect ones Sarah used to make. When Lisa appeared in the doorway, with Lily attached to her hip like a permanent fixture, he tried to smile. "They're a little ugly," he said, "but they're edible." They ate in silence. Lisa took small, careful bites. Lily, however, tore into her stack like she hadn't eaten in a week, which she probably hadn't. "These are good," Lisa said finally. Her politeness was a shield. "You don't have to be nice," Marcus told her gently. "It's okay to just be here." Lisa put her fork down. Her gaze was fixed on the table. "We're used to not being wanted," she whispered. "It's easier if people don't pretend." The words hit him harder than any punch. "Lisa," he said, waiting until she looked up. "I'm not pretending. Maybe I need you here as much as you need me." A flicker of something, was it hope? Crossed her face before it was gone. Later, while the girls were watching cartoons, Marcus went into his office and closed the door. His fingers felt numb as he typed their names into the search bar. He had to know. The results loaded. His stomach plummeted. Missing: Grace Delgado, 28, and her daughters Lisa, 4, and Lily, infant. Last seen 3 years ago. A $50,000 reward was being offered by her husband, Victor Delgado. The photos showed a beautiful woman with Lisa's haunted eyes. Her smile didn't reach them. A man's hand rested on her shoulder. Even in the grainy photo, Marcus could see the grip was too tight. It wasn't a caress. It was an anchor. 3 years. They'd been on the run for 3 years. "What are you doing?" Marcus spun around. Lisa was standing in the doorway. Her face was the color of ash. She'd seen the screen. "You searched for us," she whispered, her voice shaking with betrayal. "You're going to call him, aren't you? For the money." "No, Lisa, I would never—" "Everyone does," she said, her voice flat and dead. "Money always wins." She started backing away. "Come on, Lily. We have to go." "Lisa, wait!" He stood, his hands up as if she were a frightened deer. "I'm not calling anyone. I'm trying to figure out how to help you." She stopped, trembling. "You can't help. Nobody can. He's too powerful." "Who? Lisa? Who is your father?" Her face crumpled, and she sank onto the floor, suddenly looking like the 7-year-old she was. "His name is Victor Delgado. He's rich. He owns people. He owned us." The story tumbled out of her in broken pieces. A fairy tale marriage that turned into a nightmare. He was charming until he wasn't. The first time his hand became a fist. The first time "I love you" became "you made me do this." Grace had tried to leave twice. Both times he'd found them. He'd dragged them back with apologies and gifts and whispered threats of what would happen if she ever tried it again. "He told Mama that we were his property," Lisa recited, her voice monotone. "That he knew judges and cops. That he'd make sure she never saw us again." So Grace had planned. She saved cash. She got fake IDs. And one night 3 years ago, they vanished. They lived in the shadows, moving every few months. Grace working dead-end jobs for cash. Mama got sick a few months ago, Lisa whispered, her eyes filling with tears. A cough that wouldn't go away. She was always so tired. But she wouldn't go to a doctor. She was too afraid of being found. They'd been hiding in a condemned building when Grace's body finally gave out. She just fell asleep, Lisa's voice broke. And she didn't wake up. I tried to wake her. I did the CPR like on TV, but she was gone. This child had tried to give her dead mother CPR. The next day, she continued, men came. They were showing Mama's picture around. I recognized one of them. He used to work for Papa. So I took Lily and we ran. We hid. We ate out of dumpsters. And then we saw you. You looked sad. Like us. I thought maybe sad people help each other. Marcus couldn't speak. He couldn't breathe. Papa will come for us, she said, her eyes hollow. He always does. And Mama said he'd rather kill us than lose us. She said that's not love. It's ownership. A thought sparked in Marcus's mind. Lisa, your mother. Did she take anything from him? Besides you and Lily? Lisa hesitated. Then she reached inside her dress and pulled out a small flash drive on a tarnished chain. Mama called this her insurance, she said. Proof of all the bad things Papa did. She said if he ever found us, she'd give this to the police, and he'd be the one who went to jail. A flash drive. Evidence. This changed everything. Lisa, I have to call my friend. She's a lawyer. Her name is Diane. She can— No! Lisa shot to her feet, her eyes wide with panic. No lawyers! Lawyers work for men like Papa. They'll put us in foster care. They'll give us back to him. She started for the door, pulling Lily with her. We're leaving. We're safer on our own. Lisa, please! A soft knock on the front door froze them both in place. Marcus's blood ran cold. Another knock, louder this time. Marcus, I know you're in there. It's Beverly Kowalski from next door. Don't answer, Lisa breathed. Please. But it was too late. Marcus, I saw you through the window. I just want to ask you something. He made a split-second decision. Go upstairs, now, and be quiet. Lisa hesitated for a fraction of a second, then scooped up Lily and vanished up the stairs like a ghost. Marcus pasted on a fake smile and opened the door. Mrs. Kowalski, to what do I owe the pleasure? Her sharp eyes peered past him into the house. I saw you come home yesterday, Marcus, with 2 little girls. My nieces, he lied, his heart pounding. A surprise visit. Funny, she said, her eyes narrowing. Sarah never mentioned you had any nieces. They looked awfully thin, dear, and frightened. I also couldn't help but notice the missing person poster at the market. The one with the big reward? For 2 little girls who looked just like them. His heart stopped. I'm sure it's just a coincidence, she said, her tone making it clear she didn't believe that for a second. You're a good man, Marcus. You wouldn't get involved in something illegal. She turned to leave, then paused on the porch step. Oh, and one more thing, she said, not looking at him. That black sedan that's been parked down the street since last night, the one with the tinted windows, it's still there. I saw a man in it. He was watching your house. She walked away, leaving Marcus frozen in the doorway. He looked down the street. The sedan was there, a dark predator waiting patiently. As he watched, it slowly pulled away from the curb and drove off. They knew he'd seen them. They were sending a message. He closed the door, his hands shaking. Lisa was at the top of the stairs, her face a mask of resigned terror. See? She whispered, her voice a ghost of a sound. I told you. He always finds us. Marcus pulled out his phone. He scrolled to his lawyer friend's number. Lisa watched him, her eyes filled with the bitter certainty of betrayal. She had trusted him, and now he was going to make the call. He was going to turn them over. He was going to be like everyone else. He looked from Lisa's face to Lily's, 2 small children who deserved a life without fear. He pressed the call button. Diane, it's Marcus, he said, his voice hard as stone. I need your help. It's complicated, and it's probably illegal. But I'm not giving them back. From the top of the stairs, Lisa's eyes went wide. I have 2 little girls here, Marcus continued, his eyes locked on Lisa's. And their father is a monster. He's rich, he's powerful, and he's hunting them. But he's not getting them. Diane's voice was a squawk of questions on the other end, but Marcus barely heard her. I need emergency guardianship papers, Diane. I need to know how to fight this man and keep these kids safe. Can you help me? There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then, Marcus, what in God's name have you done? Something that matters, he said. Will you help me or not? Another silence. Then, my office, noon, and Marcus, don't you let those children out of your sight. He hung up. Lisa hadn't moved. You called a lawyer, she said, her voice filled with disbelief. I called a friend, he corrected her. There's a difference. Why? It was a broken whisper. Because he doesn't get to win, Marcus said, his voice rough with an emotion he couldn't name. Because you deserve to stop running, and because I promised I would help you. And I keep my promises. A single tear tracked a clean path through the grime on her cheek. She buried her face in Lily's hair, her small shoulders shaking. Don't, she choked out. Don't be nice. It makes it hurt more when you give up. I am not giving up. Everyone gives up, she sobbed. Money and fear. They always win. Then I guess, Marcus said, his own eyes starting to burn, I'll have to be the first one who doesn't. She looked at him then, a long, searching look, trying to find the lie she knew had to be there. But all she found was a quiet, stubborn resolve. And for the first time in a very long time, a tiny, dangerous seed of hope began to sprout in the barren landscape of her heart. That night, after a whirlwind meeting with Diane that left his head spinning with legal terms he didn't understand, Marcus found Lisa awake at 3 a.m. She was sitting on the floor of the guest room, methodically packing their few meager belongings back into a tattered backpack. Lily was asleep behind her. We have to go, she said without looking up. Diane said we only have 48 hours before they can charge you with kidnapping, before he comes for us. We need to run tonight, while we can still get away. Marcus sat on the floor next to her. We're not running. You don't understand. I understand, he said, his voice gentle but firm, that you are 7 years old and you have been a parent for 3 of them. I understand that you are exhausted, but you don't have to be the adult anymore, Lisa. You don't have to do this alone. But Papa has money, and men, and I, Marcus said, taking her small, trembling hands in his, am one person who is not going to be scared away. We fight this, together, in the daylight, and if we lose, we appeal. We never, ever stop fighting. Her face crumpled. I'm so tired, she whispered. I know, sweetheart, I know. She collapsed against him, and for the first time since he'd met her, she was just a child. She cried for her mother, for the lost years, for the crushing weight she had carried on her own for so long. Marcus just held her, rocking her gently, his own heart breaking and healing all at once. When she finally grew quiet, she whispered something against his shoulder. I love you. 3 simple words that hit him with the force of a tidal wave. His vision blurred. I love you too, Lisa. Just then, something shrill cut through the quiet of the house. A burner phone in Lisa's backpack was ringing. They both froze. It rang again. Lisa's face went white. She reached for it with a hand that shook violently. The screen was blank. An unknown number. Don't answer it, Marcus said. But she did. Her fingers, moving with a will of their own, put it on speaker. A man's voice, smooth as silk and cold as a grave, filled the room. Hello, Lisa. Lisa's breath hitched. She couldn't speak. I know you can hear me, Princess, the voice continued. I know you're in a little house on Maple Street, with a sad man who thinks he can be a hero. A soft, chilling chuckle. Tell him Victor Delgado sends his regards. Silence. You and your sister belong to me. Your mother seemed to forget that. A fatal mistake on her part. The words dripped with poison. Come home. Now. Make me come and get you, and I promise you, the man who is helping you will regret the day he was ever born. Lisa was shaking so hard the phone clattered against the floor. You have 48 hours, Victor said. Then the game is over, and I stop being nice. The line went dead. Lisa stared at Marcus, her eyes ancient with a knowledge no child should possess. See? She whispered. He always wins. But Marcus wasn't looking at her. He was looking at the phone, and in that moment, he made a choice. He picked up his own phone and dialed Diane. Marcus, it's 3 a.m. I need the custody paperwork tonight, Diane, he said, his voice a low growl. I don't care what you have to do, what corners you have to cut. I want it legal before the sun comes up. Marcus, what happened? He looked at Lisa, at her terrified face. He looked at Lily, asleep, her small hand still clutching his sleeve as if for dear life. War happened, he said, and I have no intention of surrendering. There was a pause. Then, I'll be there in an hour. Start writing down every single thing you can remember. Lisa was staring at him as if he'd grown a second head. You're really not giving us back? Never. He'll destroy you, she said, her voice breaking. Your job, your house, your life, everything. He can try. Why? She cried. Why would you risk everything for us? Marcus thought of his empty life before she and her sister had appeared. He thought of the silence, the grief. Because you asked for help, he said simply, and because some things are more important than being safe. Outside, a pair of headlights swept across the front of the house, then stopped. A car was idling across the street. Watching. Waiting. The 48-hour countdown had begun. The next week was a blur of whispered phone calls, legal documents, and the constant, gnawing fear of the ticking clock. Marcus and Diane worked relentlessly, building a fortress of paperwork around the 2 little girls. But inside that fortress, something miraculous was happening. They were becoming a family. One morning, Lily pointed a chubby finger at the refrigerator and said, clear as day, juice. Everyone froze. Marcus stared. Lisa burst into tears, but they were happy tears, the first he had ever seen her cry. He found himself laughing and crying right along with her, a strange, beautiful sound that filled the quiet house. After that, it was like a dam had broken. Lily chattered non-stop, her little voice a constant melody, making up for 3 years of silence. Lisa began to soften too. The haunted, watchful look in her eyes was slowly being replaced by something else. She helped Marcus make spaghetti, and they ended up with more sauce on the ceiling than on the plates, all 3 of them laughing until their sides hurt. He taught her how to play chess, and was stunned when she beat him on her 3rd try. Mama taught me, she said quietly, on the good days. They went to the park. For the first time, Marcus saw Lisa act like a child. She ran. She played on the swings, her laughter echoing through the autumn air. He pushed them higher and higher, a strange joy swelling in his chest, so fierce it felt like it might break him. But the world outside their little bubble was closing in. Diane arrived one morning, her face grim. He's filed, she said, spreading documents across the kitchen table. A formal custody claim. As the biological father, the court sees him as the rightful guardian. But the abuse, Marcus protested. Lisa's testimony. It's a child's word against a wealthy, respected businessman with a team of slick lawyers who will paint Grace as a mentally unstable kidnapper, Diane said, her voice flat. And without that flash drive, we have no hard proof. It's a long shot, Marcus. She leaned forward, her eyes serious. The clock is almost out. Once he serves you with those papers, you'll be charged with kidnapping. You'll be arrested, and the girls will be put into the system, where his lawyers will tear them apart. The air in the kitchen felt thick and heavy. What are my options? He asked. You can give them up, Diane said softly. Or, you can run. I'll deny I ever said this, but you could disappear. Give them a new life somewhere he'll never find them. Run. It was what Grace had done. It was what Lisa was programmed to do. He looked toward the living room, where Lisa was patiently reading a story to Lily. her voice soft and animated. She was finally safe. She was finally healing. "No," Marcus said, his voice firm. "We don't run. We fight." Diane nodded slowly, a small smile touching her lips. "I was hoping you'd say that. Then let's give them a fight they'll never forget." The next afternoon, the police showed up. A wellness check, called in by a concerned neighbor. Victor was pulling his strings. Officer Rodriguez was kind but firm, his questions sharp. Diane was there, a lioness protecting her cubs, armed with the temporary guardianship papers she'd managed to rush through. As he left, Officer Rodriguez gave Marcus a long, hard look. "Mr. Delgado is a very influential man in this city," he said, his voice low. "You're picking a fight with a giant, Mr. Chin." "I know," Marcus said. "Well," the officer said, pausing at the door. "Off the record, I've seen men like Delgado before, the kind who think money makes them gods. I hope you prove him wrong." That night, none of them slept. They were all in the living room, doors locked, lights on. At 2 a.m., the sound of shattering glass from the kitchen ripped them from a fitful doze. Marcus was up in an instant, pushing the girls behind him. A tall figure stepped out of the darkness. He was wearing an expensive suit, and his eyes were cold and dead. "Mr. Chin," the man said, his voice calm and professional. "I'm here to collect Mr. Delgado's property." "They're children," Marcus snarled, "not property." "Semantics," the man said with a sigh. He pulled out an envelope. "Mr. Delgado is prepared to be reasonable. $50,000. The original reward. You walk away. Forget you ever saw them." Marcus just stood there, his body a shield between this monster and the two terrified children behind him. He had no plan, no weapon, just a sudden, ferocious will to protect them. "I was hoping you'd be smart," the man said. And then he moved. He was fast. Marcus threw a clumsy punch that missed by a mile. The man's return strike was a precise, brutal blow to his ribs that drove all the air from his lungs. Marcus went down, his vision swimming in black spots. Through the haze of pain, he saw Lisa step out from behind the couch. Her voice was steady, though her whole body was trembling. "I'll go," she said. "Just leave him alone." A 7-year-old girl, offering herself as a sacrifice. "No," Marcus gasped, struggling to get to his feet. The man, Carver, took a step toward Lisa. That's when Marcus saw his phone on the coffee table. With a surge of adrenaline, he lunged for it, his fingers fumbling with the screen. He did the one thing he had promised Lisa he wouldn't, the one thing she feared most. He called 911. "911, what is your emergency?" "Home invasion," Marcus choked out, the words raw. "2 children in danger, 847 Maple Street, hurry!" Carver froze. In the distance, a siren began to wail. It was close, getting closer. The man's professional calm finally broke. A flash of fury crossed his face. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life," he hissed. He threw another envelope at Marcus's feet. "Court summons, custody hearing, 48 hours." And then he was gone, vanishing back through the broken window just as the street outside lit up with flashing red and blue lights. Officer Rodriguez was the first one through the door. He took their statements, his face grim as he watched the security footage of Carver's clear-as-day entrance. "We'll get him," Rodriguez said. "But Mr. Chun, you need to understand. You haven't just picked a fight with a giant. You've declared war." After the police left, Marcus boarded up the window with shaking hands. Lisa and Lily sat huddled together on the couch, wrapped in blankets. When he was done, Lisa spoke, her voice quiet. "You fought for us." "Of course I did." "And you called the police," she said, looking at him with new eyes. "You trusted them." Marcus knelt in front of her. "I will always fight for you, Lisa. Both of you. Always." She took his hand. Lily took his other one. 2 days, Lisa whispered. "We're going to win," Marcus said, squeezing their hands. He hoped it was a promise he could keep. The next 36 hours were a blur. Marcus's living room became a war room. Diane and her team worked around the clock, fueled by coffee and a righteous fury. Evidence was collected, statements were taken, and a case was built, brick by painful brick. Lisa gave her testimony on video to a child psychologist, her small voice recounting horrors that made the blood run cold. Medical exams documented years of neglect and abuse. And then came the first miracle. Diane, pulling strings Marcus didn't know she had, got Grace's death certificate flagged. Preliminary toxicology reports came back. The results were chilling. Traces of antifreeze. Small, cumulative doses over a period of months. It wasn't an illness that had killed Grace Delgado. It was poison. The community rallied around them. Mrs. Kowalski, tears streaming down her face, offered to testify about the girl's condition when they arrived, and about the black sedan that had been stalking their street. Other neighbors came forward. A petition was signed. The story of the grieving widower fighting for two lost little girls had woken something up in the quiet suburban neighborhood. They were no longer alone. The night before the hearing, Victor's lawyer called with a settlement offer. $100,000. Marcus just had to walk away. Let the girls go into a neutral foster home while the investigation proceeded. "See you in court," Marcus said, and hung up. Lisa, who had heard everything, stared at him, her eyes wide with a fragile dawning wonder. "You said no," she whispered, "to all that money." "You're not for sale, Lisa," he said simply. "Neither of you." And in that moment, he saw the last wall around her heart finally crumble. She believed him. Completely. The courthouse was a cold, imposing fortress of stone and glass. Victor Delgado was waiting for them at the entrance. He was handsome, tailored, and smiling a smile that didn't reach his cold, dead eyes. He looked every bit the concerned father, a predator in a $1,000 suit. Marcus took Lisa's hand on one side, Lily's on the other. "Together," he said. "Together," Lisa whispered back. The courtroom was a theater. Victor's lawyer, Mitchell Crane, was a master performer. He painted a picture of a devoted father, torn apart by the actions of his mentally unstable wife. He showed pictures of happy family vacations, of birthday parties, of Christmas mornings. He produced psychiatric records showing Grace had once been prescribed antipsychotics. "For 3 long years my client has searched for his beloved daughters," Crane boomed, his voice filled with fake emotion, "only to find them in the clutches of a disturbed man who failed to notify authorities. A man who was clearly attempting to extort money from a grieving father." It was a brilliant, disgusting performance. For a moment, Marcus felt a sliver of doubt. They were going to lose. Then it was Diane's turn. She was not a performer. She was a surgeon. She methodically dismantled Crane's narrative with cold, hard facts. The medical records. The testimony from Mrs. Kowalski. And then, the toxicology report. A gasp went through the courtroom. Victor's face paled. The final witness was Lisa. She walked to the stand, small and terrified, but with a strange, fierce dignity. She refused to let go of Lily's hand, so the judge allowed the toddler to stand beside her. Her voice was quiet, but it filled the silent room. She told the truth. About being locked in closets. About the things her father would whisper to her mother in the dark. About the night they ran for their lives. "Mama said he'd kill us one day," she said, looking right at the judge. "She said we were just things he owned." Victor leaned forward, his face a mask of sorrow. "Sweetheart," he said, his voice dripping with affection. "Your mommy was very sick. She made you believe things that weren't true. I love you. I've always loved you." He reached a hand out toward her. Lisa flinched back so violently she almost fell. And then, from beside her, a small, clear voice shouted, "No! Bad man!" It was Lily. Her first words in open court. A raw, terrified cry that cut through all the lies and legal maneuvering. The courtroom erupted. Victor's mask slipped. For one fleeting second, a look of pure, murderous rage contorted his handsome features. It was only for a second, but the judge saw it. After that, it was over. The judge's verdict was swift and brutal. Victor's parental rights were suspended. A criminal investigation was to be opened immediately, and temporary custody was granted to Marcus Chin. Lisa collapsed into his arms, sobbing with relief. Lily clung to them both, chanting, "Stay together, stay together." "Yes, baby," Marcus choked out, his own tears falling freely. "Together." As they left the courthouse, blinking in the sudden sunlight, Victor was there, his mask of civility gone for good. "You think you've won?" he snarled, his voice a low, venomous hiss. "This is just the beginning. I'll bury you in appeals. I'll ruin you." But Lisa stepped forward. This small, 7-year-old girl stood between the two men, her eyes blazing. "You're not our papa," she said, her voice clear and strong. "Papas don't hurt their families. Marcus is our papa now." Victor's face twisted in fury. He raised his hand. "I wouldn't do that if I were you, Mr. Delgado." Officer Rodriguez had appeared as if from nowhere. He was flanked by 2 other officers. "Actually," he continued, pulling out a pair of handcuffs, "your associate, Mr. Carver, has decided to cooperate fully in exchange for a plea deal. Victor Delgado, you're under arrest for the murder of your wife, Grace Delgado." The fight was over. The giant had fallen. 6 weeks later, Marcus stood in his kitchen, watching Lisa show Lily how to make paper snowflakes. Christmas lights twinkled in the window. The house, which had once been a tomb of grief, was filled with the smell of cinnamon and the sound of children's laughter. Victor Delgado was behind bars, facing a mountain of evidence that would keep him there for the rest of his life. The adoption proceedings were almost complete. Lily, who now called Marcus Daddy, as if she'd been saying it her whole life, chattered away, her speech therapy working wonders. Lisa was in school for the first time, and she was thriving. The nightmares were fewer. The shadows in her eyes were finally starting to recede. On Christmas Eve, the doorbell rang. It was Diane, her face beaming. She handed Marcus a thick envelope. "Merry Christmas," she said. "The judge fast-tracked it." He opened it, his hands shaking. He read the words, his vision blurring. Adoption. Approved. Final. He knelt down in front of the girls. "It's official," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You're home. For good. You're my daughters." Lisa launched herself into his arms. Lily piled on top. They were a tangle of laughing, crying, happy limbs on the living room floor. Later that night, as the snow fell softly outside, the 3 of them sat together, cutting out more snowflakes. Lisa looked up at him, her face illuminated by the warm glow of the Christmas tree lights. She smiled, a real, genuine smile, free of all the old fear. "Dad," she said, the words sounding as natural as breathing, "can you help me with this one?" "Dad." Not Marcus. "Dad." He moved to sit between his 2 girls, his heart so full he felt it might burst. They were a strange, broken, beautiful little family, forged not by blood, but in a supermarket aisle. A family found. Sometimes the world is a dark and dangerous place, but sometimes all it takes is one small, brave voice asking for a little bit of kindness to let the light in. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe.